So our presenter today is A.J. Lindsey. He's in the University of Florida IFAS Environmental Horticulture Department. He is not assistant professor at MREC. I'm sorry. He is here on campus. His focus is mostly on education, training, and assistance to the public for working with turfgrass management systems that improve turfgrass quality while minimizing negative environmental impacts. So AJ, thank you so much for being with us today. We're so thrilled. And I'm going to go ahead and stop share and invite you to share your screen and teach us all about turfgrass.
All right. Thank you for the introduction. Here. Can you see the presenter?
Nope. I do see the presenter. I want to see the full screen.
That better?
That is perfect.
All right. So thanks again for the introduction. I'm happy to be here today. Like Wendy said, my name's AJ Lindsey. I'm an urban turfgrass management specialist, so I deal with everything from residential to golf courses. My main focus is fertility, sustainable management practices, soil amendments. So pretty much anything to either reduce fertilizer or irrigation inputs. So the bulk of our talk today is going to be about selecting the right turf grass. What are the grasses that we're going to use? Some of the new cultivars that are coming out and being released in Florida, kind of the pros and cons of each of those. Then if there's time, I'm going to kind of just give you a few kind of broad updates, but we'll start with selecting the right turf grass. And one of the first things you need to do if you're going to select a new grass for your lawn is decide what kind of lawn you're going to have. Do you want a lawn like what's in the picture? You know, that fancy, everything looks well manicured. You might need to select one turf grass. Or are you more about minimal inputs? You just want some green cover, and there's other options for you with that. So selecting the right grass, one of the things with the desired look is also what level of maintenance are you willing to give your lawn? And so we have a wide range of kind of low input to high input grasses. So when I say low input, I mean minimal fertilizer, minimal irrigation, and then high inputs is the opposite of that. And so there's kind of a balancing act here. So the more inputs you have in your grass, generally the higher the maintenance is. And with that, the more inputs, the more maintenance is going to give you that more manicured look compared to, you know, some of those lower input turf grasses. So when I go over most of the grasses, I'll have some kind of indication of what kind of maintenance level it is. So before we get there, I just kind of wanted to go over once again. If I say low input, that means fertilized infrequently, it's not mowed as often, and then it's seldom watered. Moderate input is kind of the middle ground, so you might fertilize 1 or 2 times a year. You mow weekly during the summer months or when the grass is actively growing, and then you water as needed. And then high input, this is frequent fertilization. You're mowing it more often. You might have to mow it more than once a week. And then you're really providing irrigation to prevent wilt and keep that nice green uniform cover. And so there's a wide range of input levels, and these are associated with the different grasses that we'll go over. So just to start, we're going to go over the grasses, kind of some broad aspects of each grass, the pros and cons of the grasses as a whole, and then I'll go more into cultivars within each of these grasses. The main grasses that we use for Florida lawns are Bahia grass, Bermuda grass, centipede grass, St. Augustine grass, and zoysia grass. So we'll just go through each one. So the first one is Bahia grass. This is our dominant low maintenance species in Florida. We have another low maintenance species, but it's kind of isolated to certain areas within Florida. This one is more widespread. And so if you see the picture up in the top right, that orange zone is kind of where you can find this grass. And so you'll see it's found throughout the whole state of Florida. Some of the key kind of attributes is it's coarse textured. So when I say texture, that's really talking about the leaf blade. So a coarse textured grass means it has a wider leaf blade. It's not a real fine leaf blade like some of the other grasses. It has a generally an open growth habit, and I'll explain what that is a little bit later. One of the nice things about this grass is that it can be established by seed. So not all of the warm season grasses can be established from seed, and we don't recommend all of them, the ones that can be established from seed. So this is kind of a unique one here. It does have poor shade tolerance, but it also has a deep root system. And so with that deep root system, it allows us to not have to irrigate or fertilize as frequent as the other grasses. So here's just the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages, like I said, it's low maintenance, it's low input. So it's drought tolerant, low fertility needs, low maintenance. It's tolerant of all of the soils within Florida, so sandy and fertile soils. And then disadvantages is it has prolific seed heads. And so most of us have seen these seed heads, especially this time of year. If you look out and you see a big Y-shaped seed head that's growing above the grass, generally that's Bahia grass. It also has that open growth habit, which encourages weed competition. So when I say open growth habit, that means that if you stare down at the ground, it's not a real dense canopy, so you can actually see kind of bare spots of soil in between the grass. Moving to our other low input grass, this is centipede grass. Once again, if you look at where that yellow section is on the map, you can see that it's more isolated to the northern part of Florida. I'll get into why that is, but this one also can be established from seed. So this one can be established from sods, sprigs, plugs, or seeds. But since it does have a lower kind of growth rate or it's low maintenance, there is a long establishment period from seed. And so it's not always the easiest to establish from seed. The main reason it's really kind of isolated to that northern region of Florida is this one needs acidic soils to actually thrive. So when I say acidic, that means low pH. And so if you have a high pH, this grass will fail over time or it won't look as good over time. So once again, just going over the major advantages, disadvantages. So one of the advantages is that it's slow growing in prostrate. So when I say prostrate, that means it likes to grow low to the ground. It likes to kind of spread laterally more than grow vertically. So that equates to less mowing. But that also can be a disadvantage. So since it is slow growing, it's slow to establish. If you do have damage to the turf, it's slow to recover. This one does have low fertility needs, grows well in acidic soils. Another disadvantage that we hear from people sometimes is that it has a light green color. And so if you want a dark green grass, this isn't really the one for you. And this can lead to over fertilizing the grass. Some people want that dark green color. They over fertilize the grass to get it. And then ultimately their grass is going to fail over time with that too. So now into the more common grasses you'll see in a lot of neighborhoods. The first one's St. Augustine grass. So this one's found throughout the whole state of Florida. It's found throughout the whole southeast of the United States. It's stoloniferous, so that means it only grows laterally across the surface of the ground and not underneath the ground. This one also has a coarse leaf texture or kind of a broad leaf blade. This one's exclusively used in lawn settings. So it's not used for any, golf courses, athletic fields. It's only really used in a lawn setting. This one also has a deep root system, but it's not as drought tolerant as a Bahia grass. So overall advantages and disadvantages. This one has relatively good shade tolerance compared to some of the other warm season grasses. But this also varies by cultivar within the St. Augustine grass. This one can tolerate a wide range of soil types and pHs. And this one can only be established vegetatively. So it has to be established from sod, plugs. There's no seed for this turfgrass species. Some of the disadvantages is it will require some supplemental irrigation to remain green. So especially this time of year, what we're going through kind of our dry season, it will need some supplemental irrigation to remain green. Another big disadvantage we see throughout the state is chinch bugs. And so chinch bugs can be aggressive. And with that, it can also cause a lot of damage within your yard. This one will need weekly mowing during the summer months. And then it also needs some fertility to maintain that uniform and dark green color throughout the year. So I know I'm moving through these pretty fast, but we'll go over some cultivars that are coming up. So we'll kind of go over them again. Zoysia grass. So you can see here, this one's even more widespread than St. Augustine grass. It's growing throughout the whole southern United States. It can even reach up into parts of Iowa. And so this one really is cultivar dependent on which grasses are going to do well. So some advantages and disadvantages. It's a very dense grass. And so when it's healthy and it's growing well, the canopy will be so dense that weed problems become less of an issue. This one's also adapted to a wide range of soils. And so that's why you'll see St. Augustine grass and zoysia grass as the most common lawn species that we'll kind of use in neighborhoods. This one also has good shade tolerance, but it's also cultivar dependent, just like St. Augustine grass. This one will do better if you do have some wear or some high use areas in your lawn. A zoysia grass will be a better option than a St. Augustine grass. Irrigation needs are similar to St. Augustine grass. If you're talking about keeping it green throughout the year. But this one can also handle droughts very well. It just does it in a different way, which I'll touch on in a few slides. Some disadvantages are this is the first turfgrass species to go off color in the fall and the last one to green up in the spring. And so if you are in a northern region of the state, this will be the first one to go dormant in the winter and kind of the last one to wake up in the spring. And then it also forms thatch. And so thatch is this layer in between the soil and the green part of the grass. And with that, if you have an excessive amount of material there, it's harder to manage. The irrigation doesn't get to the root system. The herbicides or fungicides won't get to where they need to go. And so if you have an excessive thatch layer, it's going to cause more issues down the line. Another grass that we're starting to see more often in residential areas is Bermuda grass. So if you look across the world, this is the most widely used warm season grass species, but it's not used for residential areas very often. It does provide some of the highest quality turf, but we'll talk about it in a minute. It's relatively high maintenance, and so that's where that quality comes in. Like I said, in Florida, it's mostly used on golf courses and athletic fields. And then you'll see it in other areas. Some people consider it a weed in certain circumstances. But we are doing a lot of research right now to see if there are some useful cultivars for residential areas. So some of the key advantages is it's vigorous and provides a dense turf. It's a fine textured grass, so it doesn't have that wide leaf blade like some of the other ones. It's very wear, drought, and salt tolerant. So Bermuda grasses as a whole are our most drought tolerant species. And then if you do have high use areas, it's very wear tolerant. The biggest disadvantages in terms of residential usage is it has poor shade tolerance. And so if you have some shade in your landscape, Bermuda grass really isn't going to thrive there. It's also a relatively high maintenance, which means more fertilizer, more frequent irrigation, more mowing. But we are doing research to kind of see how much lower can we actually put our fertilization? Can we raise our mowing heights and still get good quality turf grass? And so we're doing a lot of research right now, like I said, to test out Bermuda grasses for residential usage. So here's a table that kind of goes over each of these species that we talked about. And this table can kind of help you select what grass you'd want to use in your lawn. And so within here, you kind of go over on the top, there's each grass, and then there's kind of different attributes through this. So you can see where it's adapted to, what are the mowing heights. So in general, the lower the mowing height, the more frequent you're going to have to mow. So that means it's going to be a higher maintenance grass. There's leaf texture, drought tolerance. And so you can see most of our grasses have excellent to good drought tolerance, but some of them do it in a different way. So like zoysia grass has excellent drought tolerance, but it's also the first grass that's going to tell you it needs water. And so zoysia grass, after a few days during this drought season, will start to go dormant and it will start to turn brown. If you're fine with that, it'll just stay dormant until it rains again. But if you want to keep your grass green, this will require more supplemental irrigation. You have shade tolerance, wear tolerance, and you kind of go over each one of these and really figure out which grass will be best suited for your needs. And then from there, you can pick your grass and then pick your cultivar, which we'll go on to next. So this is a useful table. This will be published in an EDIS document coming up. But if you ever want it, feel free to email me also. Another big consideration for which grass to select is getting a soil test done first and seeing what your soil pH is. And so you can see some of these grasses have a pretty wide range of what they can tolerate. But if you get to that low end spectrum, so a pH of 5, there's fewer grasses that are suitable for that. And then if you get a pH around 7 or 8, there's certain grasses that will do better in that. And so getting a soil test done before can also help you select which grass would be suitable for your area. So that's the grasses. Then in establishment, just real quick. So these grasses can be established between sod, plug, sprigs, or seed. So some of them can be established through seed, but not all of them. And then these are just some general establishment guidelines. We get a lot of questions on how to establish, when to water. And so I put this slide in here. The best time to plant is during active growth periods. So throughout the state of Florida, right now is a good time to plant. If we were going into the winter months in northern Florida, it'll be slow to establish. And so sometimes if you can delay it till spring, it'll be a quicker establishment and more successful turf grass or more successful lawn. One thing we like to point out is a new lawn shouldn't be fertilized for 30 to 60 days after planting. And so when they're harvested, sometimes they are fertilized before they're harvested. And then also when we're establishing a sod, we kind of cut the root system off. And so if it doesn't have a root system, if we fertilize on top of that, we're just increasing the likelihood of those nutrients to leach through that system. Over here is just kind of a general irrigation schedule. This isn't a hard, fast rule. It will depend on the weather, how much it's raining. But you can see there's different ages here, and then we have some recommendations of how frequent to water. This can also be found online, so I'll kind of just skip this part for now. Here's just the different ways that we establish it. So on the left, you see the sod. This is the most widespread way that people are establishing lawns. And the top right is plugs. And so you put a plug of grass spaced out so frequently, and then over time this will grow in. And then in the bottom is sprigging. This is more common in golf courses and athletic fields, but it's another option that you could use for large areas. So that's just the general grasses, how to kind of determine what species would be best suited for your area. And then with that, I talked to Dr. Kenworthy. He's our turfgrass breeder. And he has put together a lot of information on the newer cultivars that are coming to Florida, and some also mixed species work that he's doing. So I wanted to cover that to kind of give you guys an update of, what's coming out, and what to expect in the future. So the first question to really start all this off is, are new turfgrass or lawn options needed for Florida? So you can see here, going around the state, you can find all sorts of landscapes. So you have everything from the high manicured uniform green looks that you can see on these pictures. You have different grasses. Some are doing better with drought than others. You have kind of mixed lawns. You have some grass, some legumes. It looks like some clover. You also might just want a whole lawn of ground covers and forbs. And so these are all things that we think about and things we see when we're traveling across the state. So one of the key things in determining, do we need new grass cultivars? Do we need to look at alternative landscapes? Is the water usage. And so water is becoming a limited resource in Florida. There's a lot of areas that are providing water restrictions, irrigation restrictions. And during times of the year, we also have different droughts. So specifically this time of year, we do have drought periods. And so we really need to be thinking about our water usage in the landscape. And so that's one of the main drivers that will dictate the cultivars being released, how we think about going around, mixed lawns, mixed species. And so water is kind of the main driver to a lot of our new things coming out. So here's just a graph real quick showing that for most of our grasses, kind of our traditional grasses with no water, so no irrigation, they don't really hit what we're striving for in our turf quality. That's that green line here. So if you look at the bottom, it's no water, and it's only about half the quality that we'd want. And so a lot of our traditional grasses, we do need to be watering, supplemental irrigation to get that quality we want. And so now we're trying to figure out, what cultivars, what grasses can we lower this need for water and still get high quality turf grass. So another thing that's driving this, like I said, water has become more limiting, especially in outdoor usage. And so there's a lot of communities that are going with the Florida Water Star program. Some need to, some are doing it because they're, conserving water. There's a lot of areas where there's not enough water for the current development. And so this program has a lot of different factors, but one of them is Sprinkler irrigation should now irrigate more than 60% of the total landscape area. And so with that, once again, there's a lot of efforts in determining which cultivars will tolerate less water overall. And so if you can see this photo on the top, these are all different cultivars, these little squares. And there's one square in the middle there that's dark green and dense, while the rest of these grasses aren't doing as well. So we have all these different universities working together. So Florida, Texas A&M, Georgia, and we're all evaluating these grasses to help select which ones are going to be the most drought tolerant moving forward. Another driving issue is lethal viral necrosis. So this is a disease that can actually infect all of the St. Augustine grasses. It can infect it and cause mosaic, which I'll show you in a picture. But there's one cultivar that it can convert over into lethal viral necrosis, and that's Floratam. And so Floratam is our most widespread St. Augustine grass used. It's still the most production acres, so sod farms are still growing a lot of Floratam. And even though this can be an issue for certain areas, Floratam's still a good option for most of the state, so just keep that in mind. But there are certain areas that are getting this disease, and once it gets a kind of in a landscape or in a lawn, typically that lawn needs to be replaced within 3 years. And so with that, we also need to identify cultivars that are resistant to this disease. So just to distinguish between the two, and so all of St. Augustine grasses can get this mosaic. And so that's where you see these dark green parts and a little bit of this yellowing. With that, it will recover over time. But Floratam can get lethal viral necrosis. And that's where those yellow parts will turn brown and the grass will actually die over time. So with that, we identified we do need a need for new options, new cultivars. And a lot of that, like I said, is due to water usage. So now we're going to go over kind of each of the grasses and some of the newer cultivars that are coming out. So current St. Augustine grasses on the market. On the left, we kind of have our standards or our traditional ones. So Floratam, Seville, Palmetto. But we have a lot of new varieties coming out in the state right now. And I'll go over each one of these in the next slides. So right now, there's a handful of cultivars that are recognized as suitable replacements to Floratam if you do have lethal viral necrosis. So you can see here that's Bitter Blue, Seville, Raleigh, Classic, and Palmetto. And then the other newer varieties are still being evaluated for this resistance. So this first one is Pro Vista. So this was released through Scott's Miracle Grow. This is genetically modified Floratam. So a lot of the attributes of Floratam are also going to be seen within this grass. So if you look at drought response, disease response, it's similar to Floratam, but it's been genetically modified for two different attributes of the grass. One is that it's been modified to have a slower vertical growth. And so this means less frequent mowing and an improved shade tolerance. And then it's also been modified to be resistant to glyphosate. So this makes weed control easier, but I would use caution if you think you have Pro Vista and you want to try glyphosate for weed control. I would recommend doing a test area. We've had some cases where people thought they had Pro Vista, turns out they had a different cultivar. And if they use glyphosate on that, it would essentially kill their lawn. A new grass that was released through the University of Florida is Citra Blue St. Augustine grass. And so kind of the qualities of this one, it has good turf quality. It has a really dark blue-green color. It's fairly drought tolerant. Has about the same kind of weed control options as Floratam or Palmetto. This is one of our grasses that does really well in the shade. And then this one also has reduced mowing just because of its growth habit. So there's still things we need to learn. We're not sure if it's resistant to lethal viral necrosis. And it seems like it tolerates chinch bugs better than Floratam, but that's still kind of under investigation. The one common complaint that we kind of see with this grass is that it forms a really dense thatch layer. And so if you've seen this grass and you walk on it, it feels kind of spongy. And so there's a lot of research that we're doing right now on how to manage that more effectively to kind of make a high quality product and still get all of the good qualities of this grass. So here's just two pictures, what it can look like. So it can look very dark green, dense, uniform. It can do well in full sun, and then it can also do well in shaded environments. And so if you do have quite a bit of shade in your landscape, this could be a good option for you. Another grass that's coming to Florida, it's not available in Florida yet. It's called Sola St. Augustine grass. So this was developed through NC State. This one has good color. It's very aggressive grass, so it can recover from some of the damages. It has good drought tolerance, good cold tolerance because it was bred from North Carolina. And this is another good option for shaded areas, but it's not available in Florida yet. So it's expanding into Florida, and within the next few years, I would expect this one to be available, but it's just not available right now. Another new grass is Viridian. So this is another one that was developed with Scott's and Texas A&M. So once again, it's glyphosate resistant. In the picture, you can see it has a dark green color. It's more cold hardy than Floratam, but some of the other things are like Floratam still. Another new St. Augustine grass is called Cobalt. So right now, this one's ramping up production in the state of Florida. But this one has good color, good shade tolerance, has a higher mowing height. So you'll see St. Augustine grasses can have a wide range from 2.5 to 4 inches. So make sure you know which cultivar you have so you can do the correct mowing height. But one of the main drivers why we're excited to test this grass out in Florida in a more widespread kind of usage. This one was bred for drought tolerance, and it's highly drought tolerant. And so there's some other research that looks at how frequent you need to water, how it does with drought response. And they all kind of point out that this one's highly drought tolerant. And so we're doing a lot more work kind of across the state with Florida to see, is this true throughout the whole state of Florida? But it seems very promising so far. So that's the St. Augustine grasses. The next one is zoysia grass. So you can see zoysia grass has a wide range of usage, everything from landscapes to golf courses. And a lot of that's just depending on which species or cultivar of zoysia grass you're looking at. So it can go everything from residential to the finest, bladed grasses for putting greens. So here's just a picture to show you how the leaf blades can vary depending on which cultivar you're actually picking. So you kind of have a coarse textured blade with the icon all the way down to a very fine bladed one, which is Xeon. The one thing I want to point out is there's kind of this new area that's a hybrid. So if you see Zoysia japonica x Zoysia matrella, that means it's a hybrid. And they kind of have this intermediate leaf blade. And so a lot of the new ones that's coming out are these hybrids. And so I just wanted to point that out so you kind of have an idea of what the leaf blade actually looks like. So one of the new ones coming out is Stadium Zoysia grass. So this is a fine to medium leaf bladed Zoysia grass. You can see it has very dark green color. It has good drought, wear tolerance. But this is for kind of golf or high-end residential areas. And so because it has that really fine leaf blade, and generally will increase the maintenance levels. And so you really only see this in more manicured areas. Another one that's being released, it's getting established here in Florida. It's not widely available, but they're expanding production, is Gateway Zoysia grass. So this is one of those hybrids. And this looks like it can be used kind of a broad spectrum. So lawns, golf courses, and maybe sports turf. It has good winter hardiness, so it could be suitable up in northern Florida also. And then it has good shade tolerance. Another grass developed through NC State is Lobo Zoysia grass, so another hybrid. This one, once again, was bred for drought tolerance. And so this one is relatively drought tolerant compared to the other zoysia grasses. It also is low input. And so this one isn't widely available in Florida yet either, but they're expanding their market right now. There's also been two grasses developed through the University of Florida. And so that is Citrusoi and Brazos. And so Citrusoi is another hybrid. So it's that intermediate kind of leaf blade. It has good shade tolerance. It has good spring green up. So if you remember back, I said zoysia grass is one of the last ones to green up in the spring. This one has better green up in that spring period. So you can see it handles a wide array of landscapes and go from yards to, highly manicured yards to shaded areas. And so we've seen some very good success with this grass in residential areas. Another one that I mentioned was Brazos. So this one has more of a medium texture, so it's not as fine bladed. But this seems to be more suitable for a widespread residential use. It has good shade tolerance, good winter color retention. So in these pictures, the one on the left is during kind of spring, summer. You can see how it's nice, it's dark green. This is a picture from at the start of winter. So most zoysia grasses would be just completely brown. And this one's retaining some of that green color. So that's one of the positive attributes of this grass. So those are the new zoysia grasses that are coming specifically for, residential areas. And then there's also Bermuda grasses that are coming out. So historically, these have been kind of designated for fairways and putting greens. But some of these bolded ones you can see in this list, we're starting to see if we can use those for residential areas. There's also seeded cultivars of Bermuda grass. You'll find this in the box stores. You'll see Bermuda grass sold for seed, but there's not a lot of them that are probably good options for Florida. But there are a few that have done okay over time. So for Bermuda grass, vegetatively propagated or sod or sprigs cultivars, so the ones we'll talk about today, generally have better quality and performance. And so they do better long-term in Florida. The seeded cultivars, they can be used in certain areas, but they're not going to give you as high quality of a lawn compared to the vegetatively propagated cultivars. So the ones that were coming out and we're testing for residential areas, the first one is Celebration Bermuda grass. So this one was released through Sod Solutions. It's a fine textured common Bermuda grass. So there's common Bermuda grasses and there's hybrid Bermuda grasses. The common one generally will have a wider leaf blade relative to the other Bermuda grasses, but it's not a coarse leaf blade like you would think of a St. Augustine grass. This one's easy to point out from the landscape because it has a dark kind of blue-green color. And then with most of the Bermuda grasses, it's going to have good wear tolerance and good drought resistance. Another grass that we've seen a lot of success in athletic fields, golf course fairways. It's called Tiftuff. So this was developed through the University of Georgia. This was released through a specialty crop research grant that was looking at drought tolerance specifically. And so this one does well in all the drought studies that we've seen. It does well in all the wear tolerance studies or athletic field usage studies. And so this one seems like it's very promising. It's very drought tolerant. And so here's just a picture looking at a long-term drought study in Jay, Florida, so up in the Panhandle. On the left is kind of a common cultivar of Bermuda grass. You can see that during drought, it starts to turn brown. It's going dormant, where Tiftuff still looks green. It still looks uniform. And so you can really see how drought tolerant this grass is. Another grass that we're testing for residential areas is Bimini. So this one we know does well in golf courses, athletic fields, and we think it could have some uses in residential areas. So it's extremely wear tolerant, has fast recovery if it does have damage, and it's relatively cold tolerant for a Bermuda grass. University of Florida, so Dr. Kenworthy is also working on releasing a new Bermuda grass. And so these are just some pictures about the rapid establishment. And so this is in August of this last year. And you can see it was plugged. So we had these little areas where the Bermuda grass was. And then by September, it looked like this. And then it was actually harvested in December. So that's one of the benefits of these Bermuda grasses is they can cover a new landscape fairly quickly. And then just to wrap up our cultivars, so we have Bahia grass, and there's a few different ones. There's Pensacola, Tifton, Tifquick, and then there's also Argentine. And so these are the kind of ones we'd use for lawns. There's also common Bahia grass, which you'll see kind of on the roadsides or in forage grounds. But these are the ones that we use for lawns. And with Dr. Kenworthy's program, he's also trying to breed for turf type Bahia grasses. So here's kind of the issues that we see with Bahia grass. You see the tall seed heads, so that Y-shaped seed head. You see that open growth canopy, so you can see how it's not a dense, uniform look. And so with that, weeds become a problem. And then also mowing's difficult because of all these seed heads are coarse. And so these are all kind of the issues with a nice uniform looking Bahia grass lawn. And so with that, Dr. Kenworthy is trying to get turf type Bahia grasses. So there's a lot of research he's doing. It looks like he has some promising cultivars. And so hopefully within the next handful of years, we'll have a more turf type Bahia grass. I'm not sure I'm doing my time. I'm probably just have to skip this kind of portion. Besides just looking at purely turf grass, we also are looking at mixed species. So can we use ground covers, other things in our landscapes and still get a lot of the qualities we're looking for? So there's been a lot of research. This is one of Dr. Unruh's graduate students. He was looking at perennial peanut and grass mixtures. And so they found a lot of different positive attributes with having these mixed landscapes. You can see how it can look. You can get the flowering perennial peanut mixed with the Bahia grass, and still provide kind of that, dense, uniform look that some people want from their lawns. Some of the other ones that are being evaluated right now is looking at Bahia grass mixed with frog fruit and or white clover. And so Dr. Kenworthy is evaluating these three by themselves. So Bahia grass by itself, frog fruit by itself, and white clover by itself. The mixture of the two, and then the three-way mixture of all three of those. And so with that, he's also doing a breeding program with frog fruit. So this is, he selected some that are native to Florida. So you can see all these green dots are where they're collecting a germplasm or collecting samples from. And then they also found a few from across the southeast. And with that, he's evaluating all of these different, essentially cultivars, but different accessions of this frog fruit. And so with getting these, for them to be more widely available, we need to start to figure out how can we grow these more like a sod. And so he's looking at establishment of frog fruit. So you can see here's kind of what it looked like when it's 5 to 6 weeks old. And then you can see later on the year it's starting to spread and fill in. But the ultimate goal is to select one that could actually be harvested like sod. And so somebody could actually establish a landscape just as they would with sod. And then the one thing that we're starting the project this year, we're looking at compost amendments and non-irrigated turf. So all of the cultivars that I talked about today, we are going to establish them. We're going to provide establishment irrigation, so 30 days of irrigation like we normally would. And then we're going to turn off the water, and we're going to see which cultivars can survive and be usable for residential areas. And so we're looking at 20 different cultivars, but you can see there are some promising ones. So this bottom one, this one's been released since then, but you can see in a non-irrigated scenario, some of these grasses may have the ability to provide good quality turf and reduce our irrigation needs. I think that's all I have time for right now. I just wanted to point out, I know weeds are kind of a common issue. And so there's a lot of new research coming out through our team, our turfgrass weed scientist. This is just an example of what he's doing. So for each weed, that's kind of an issue. He has kind of the attributes, how to ID it. And then the more important thing is once you ID it, he actually has all of the different herbicides that you can find. If they're tolerant to each grass. So if it has a green bar, that means the grass is tolerant. NR is not recommended. And so with this, he has these lists. And so if you do have any weed questions, you can go to his website. You can find these ones. He has documents for homeowners, so you can, go to your big box store, see what products they have, and go see if that will work for the weeds that you have in your landscape. With that, I'll just skip ahead.
Well, that's great. Great information. We got to get to the questions.
Yeah, so like I said, thanks for having me today.
Oh,
There's a
look
lot.
at your field of dreams. That's so
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, I got to go there with my dad. So,
Oh, that's so sweet.
but like I
So we,
said, thank you. I'll answer the questions that we have, but
okay.
always feel free to email me. More than happy to help you out.
Okay, I did give your email out to a couple folks too. Tia from Hillsborough County, the extension agent down there, she says she's got some bare patches in her bahia. If I let my bahia grass grow, the seed heads mature and drop. Is that viable to fill in the lawn?
So from my understanding, the seeds are viable, um, but it would probably be easier and faster if you would also hand seed your areas with additional bahia grass. So I don't know if they know exactly the dormancy period or anything with the seed heads, the seeds from the seed heads, but I would recommend just putting some more bahia grass seed in there yourself.
Okay, all right. And then thatching the St. Augustine grass, is that something we do yearly? Do we thatch St. Augustine grass?
So no, so this is
Dethatch.
so we don't dethatch St. Augustine grass currently. So you will see maybe some core aeration in St. Augustine grass, but there's not anybody really dethatching St. Augustine. And that is due to that it only grows from stolons, so kind of above ground stems. And so people are kind of hesitant to dethatch it because it can have excessive damage. Um, and so we're looking at dethatching and getting some recommendations for St. Augustine grass, but it's not the most common thing seen in Florida right now.
Yeah, so sometimes I feel like, some of our companies will sell us something or try to say, oh, you need to thatch, you need to aerate. And it's like, oh, do I really? So do your research before accepting those services. Okay, Susan said Bermuda grass is classified by the IFAS assessment of non-native plants in the caution category. Do we want to recommend it to the public?
Um, so that could have both sides to it. For lawns, and if you're only looking at water usage, I think it could be a useful grass for the state. Um, but in terms of its caution status, it is aggressive, and so once it gets places, it is harder to control. And so I guess I could see both sides of that.
Okay. Yep, that's a good point. I'm glad they're thinking like that. Julius is asking, before installing new turf, do you advise treating the soil with a fungicide or a pest control product?
Generally, I don't unless you are establishing a grass into a known area that has a disease or a fungicide or a fungus issue. So if you had takeout root rot, it killed your grass, you need to reestablish. There can be some benefit seen by applying a fungicide with that. But as a whole, I don't really recommend it.
Okay, okay. And then Jim, from down in Palm Beach County has recently read a story, or not a story, read an article, linking Parkinson's disease to pesticide exposure and showing that individuals living within a mile of a golf course had over 100% higher risk of developing Parkinson's disease more than those living 6 miles away. So what do you think about these concepts as far as, pesticide treatment and exposure?
So I don't know that study. I don't know where it's been, where they were studying or where in the US. I know Florida is at the forefront. They kind of pioneered best management practices for golf courses, and they kind of have the highest standards. And so they're the most environmentally cautious, and they do a very good job at, um, using it, protecting their natural areas on the golf courses. And so I don't know enough about the study to make an argument either way, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Here's a good question. Are there treatments for the lethal viral necrosis? What do we tell folks? Is it total removal of the lawn is the only choice? Is there an easy way to tell them that the LVN is the issue? Are there preventative measures that can be taken to avoid LVN?
So to my knowledge, there's no treatment for it. Because it is a virus, it's not like the other ones where you can apply something and kind of control it. The best way to tell if LVN's the issue is actually to send a sample to the diagnostic lab. So there's the rapid turfgrass diagnostic lab. That'd be the easiest way to tell for sure if it's LVN. And then the only preventative things that I've seen, it's limited kind of success rates, but sanitize your mowing equipment. So if you have an area that looks like it could be, this is for all diseases really, but if you have an area that looks like it could be from a disease, you mow the healthy area, sanitize after you mow kind of the damaged area. But once it gets into a neighborhood, it's hard because of, a lot of our neighborhoods are controlled by lawn care companies. And so they're just kind of mowing and blowing. So the best way is if you do have it and it's confirmed, the best way would be to pick one of those resistant cultivars.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard as master gardener volunteers, delivering that diagnosis, letting them know what their options are. This is, it's a difficult thing to communicate because it's going to involve a lot of money out of their pocket to deal with this issue. So we try to be as compassionate and empathetic as possible. It's one of the
Mhm.
hard diagnoses out there for us. So good question, Deborah. I really appreciate it. So Carol says, so many cultivars now. What are the chief recommendations for homeowners?
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy answer. It really depends on what you want out of your lawn and then what is your environmental conditions. Um, so that's why we have a lot of information on all the cultivars. There's a ton online, but I don't think there's a specific recommendation for homeowners.
Right. It depends on the growing conditions and where you are in the state and what's going to work best for you in your landscape. So that's a good question, good answer too. Um, Annie says the perennial, she loves the rabbits love the perennial peanut. What can you do from keeping them from eating the flowers? With AJ, I'll save you on this one. With all wildlife, it's exclusion. We try to build fences and keep them out, but hopefully the peanut grows strong enough and the bunnies can eat it and you can enjoy it too. So Angel Rodriguez has replaced some turf with frog fruit and Broward, so that's cool. I like that. And what about a mixture of St. Augustine and perennial peanut or St. Augustine and frog fruit? Is anyone looking at that yet?
So no one is researching it officially. We see it in landscapes a lot. To me, it looks nice, but kind of the main draw of the mixes we're doing is to eliminate supplemental irrigation and eliminating fertilizer. And so St. Augustine does require some additional irrigation and or fertilizer. And so main focus research wise and establishment wise is we do combinations with our low input grasses.
Yeah, with the low input. AJ, I don't know if you know it, but I grew a combination of perennial peanut and St. Augustine, but it took a long time to get it established, really kind of having to mow around the peanut because the St. Augustine would get high and the peanut would be so low. It took probably 5 years to get that established. So it's not for just the casual lawn care person. Yeah.
And another thing
Um,
that
Go ahead.
why we selected Bahia grass is because it has that open growth canopy. And so it's already kind of open where St. Augustine's dense. So it's easier to kind of establish another thing into a Bahia grass.
Uh-huh. Um, and this is a good question, because a lot of times you all will talk about the cultivars And we end up going to Home Depot or Lowe's, or I shouldn't say their names, but I did, or your local nurseries, and they don't have the cultivars that you mentioned or that we're looking for. So how can we find those?
The best way to do it is to contact a sod farm close to you and see what they have available. So there is a website you can go online, find all the sod farms, find all the grasses they're growing. But to try to kind of limit the cost, I would try to find the one that's closest to you, um, and see what grasses they have available. And so that's another kind of obstacle of selecting which grass you want is you need to have one that's available to you. So that's why a lot of these grasses are new. I kind of want to get them out in front of you guys so that when you see them advertised later on or you see them more available, you kind of know about them already. But some of them are hard to find still.
Yep, yep. Um, so we have some questions about the alternative turf or ground covers. You know, Jan is wondering, has there been a shift to people wanting to use it? I think, in my opinion, the want is there in by a small percentage so far, but we know that lawn care and landscaping is contagious. So the more we see it and the more it gets normalized and the more research that's done from UF, will probably see it more. But then there's people in their HOAs that just want that perfect lawn. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, AJ, I don't know if you want to add on to that.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, within certain areas or communities, there's a big shift. Um, but then you go to other places and they want their perfectly manicured yard to go with their golf course, and that's what they want. And so, another limitation why there probably isn't a bigger shift yet is just because it's not available. Um, and so once we can get kind of the production side of it down, it's probably become more widespread.
Yeah, and people want to put it in as like sod pieces because if
Yeah,
you're planting 1 gallon or 4-inch pots out there, you're going to have the weed competition with the bare soil, and then it's just, a management nightmare. So when we can get these native ground covers in sod pieces or, for full coverage, that's going to be a real game changer for us in Florida. I'm hoping for that day soon.
yeah, yep. We're working
Um,
on it.
Yes, I know, but turf does have its spot,
Yep, yep.
absolutely. And so the expert for weeds is, and you're gonna say his name for me and you're gonna teach me how to say it, AJ.
So the W's are like V's. So Pavel Padelovitz,
Pavel Padelovitz. Okay,
Patelovich, I think.
Patelovich.
Yeah. So
All right,
Pavel, and his email's there. You can Google his name, but he is the turfgrass weed expert.
perfect. Let's see, and we answered the question, what can you do for the lethal virus necrosis, which is not much.
I think I
And
saw a
then,
question about mimosa as turf
yeah.
replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have thought about that and using that in combinations for a while. Um, but there's been some hesitancy because it is so aggressive. So kind of like that Bermuda grass comment before, the mimosa, once it gets into a landscape, it's very hard to control. Um, and so that's why I think some of the other options are kind of taking over in the research side of things so far.
Yeah, and for me, there's a ground cover and there's turf replacement. And so Mimosa strigolosa is a great native ground cover for full sun, low maintenance, drought tolerant, right? But do we want to throw a frisbee or playing cornhole on it? Because it gets so wiry and tangly, I would be afraid to maybe trip or my footing on that. I think that there are other alternatives for turf replacement with that. So really think about the long-term nature of that plant as when you're providing recommendations for what that ground cover is going to ultimately be like. Okay. And Babu down in Lee County is singing the praises of frog fruit, which is good. But she says, what happens to those caterpillars and butterflies if it's used as sod? Well, they continue to use it, because we're not putting any pesticides or if it gets mowed. I think probably she's worried if it's getting mowed, are we mowing caterpillars, which is a good question.
Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about that side of it. Yeah, I don't, that would be a good Dr. Adam Dale question.
Yes. And then the slides will be, we can have the presentation will be available, and AJ, if you want to put the slides in the PDF, a PDF that what you presented today, we can include that because you did go through a lot of names.
Yeah,
It would be nice to have that.
yeah, I can
Um,
send you the PDF.
Great. And let's see, you put up that resource, and Colin is asking about recommendation on turf aeration, and I'll let you handle that, AJ.
Yeah, so I think as a whole, we would see a lot of benefits with turf aeration, especially on new residential areas. And
Mhm.
so we have a lot of work done on new urban soils. One of the biggest challenges with those urban soils is compaction. And so getting aeration into that, opening up the soil some, we can see great benefits for turf grass.
Okay, good answer. Kathy has had take all root rod and St. Augustine palmetto. Is the recommendation, should it be removed and the whole thing resodded?
It depends how big of an area it is. Uh, St. Augustine grass can grow back through it.
Mhm.
But if you're getting a lot of take all root rot, you're probably looking at a water management issue.
Yeah, something else is going on. Something is stressing it. You got to deal with that stressor. I would deal with that stressor before I resodded.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, good. Um, and should I add red sander topsoil in my St. Augustine where areas are thin? This is a thing we do here in Florida. AJ, what do you think?
Um, yeah, we've seen benefits with top dressing with either. Another option that we're seeing good results with is using compost. And so kind of top dressing or adding a mixture of compost and sand to where it's thin. We're seeing a really good response with that.
Okay, and while we're talking about that, I see a little further down, Kathy's asking about the command product. Are we still recommending command?
Yeah, so that's one of the products that we've tested the most is the Command product.
Mhm.
As a whole, we've seen a lot of benefits from it. But then this year, we're also going to test a lot more um, compost products.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have, is it any kind of compost product? Is it the Command product? So hopefully we'll know more, but as a whole, we see a lot of benefits with that product.
Great, good. Let me see. What turf grass uses the least water for the best lawn?
So that's a hard one to answer again. The grass that's going to use the least amount of water as a whole or a general would be Bermuda grass. But Bermuda grass doesn't like shade. So if you have shade and you're worried about water, then that's not a good option. And so it really just depends on your landscape. But as a whole, Bermuda grass is probably our most drought tolerant species. And so that's why we're trying to identify which ones will work for residential areas.
Okay. All right. And what is the easiest way to identify the sugarcane mosaic or the LVN?
It's through that modeling look. So you'll see that kind of molted green scattered with the brown. But if you think you have it, I would just send a sample in. That's going to be the easiest way to diagnose it and diagnose it accurately. That way, you're not thinking you have it and trying to replace your lawn if it's a different issue.
Okay. All right. And then Karen, about the perennial peanut, we did a great webinar on perennial peanut July of last year. So I would recommend that you go and check out what Kelly Thomas's recommendations for the cultivars are. There's a number of cultivars out there. There's EcoTurf, there's Cowboy, Needlepoint, there's quite a number. Golden Glory.
Yeah,
Again, you want to find the one that's right for your situation. And
I
Barbara
know
is
they're
worried about zoysia being invasive. Do you want to mention that?
being invasive.
Yeah, she says
Uh,
it's listed as invasive in the keys. I just checked the IFAS assessment and it's not, IFAS hasn't said it's invasive, but Barbara is she's pretty smart about these things. She must have seen it on some list.
as far as I know, it hasn't been deemed invasive,
Okay.
and it's easier to control than Bermuda grass. Um, I guess I haven't heard anything about it being invasive.
Okay. All right, Jim, I saw that link about the Parkinson's and I'm going to send that to AJ directly, okay? And then here's a good question about establishing Bahia from seed. Some people have found it difficult and I feel your pain there, Scott. And then I also establishing centipede from seed is like you need a miracle. So AJ, tell us how to do it. What are the tricks?
Yeah, the tricks is you're doing a lot of maintenance after the fact. Um, so generally I've had success with it from putting a thin layer of soil over the top of it or just kind of rolling it into the soil. But then your biggest challenges are keeping enough moisture on it because it's slow to germinate and establish. And then weed control once that's going. So if you're looking for kind of an instant area, sod's always going to be the easiest option. People like seeded areas because it's cheaper. But then you have a lot of maintenance on keeping the right moisture levels. And then you're also going to have to do weed control while that's getting established. And so it is a lot of work. It's not the easiest. And that's why for bigger areas, you don't see it very often besides roadways.
Okay. So I just saw a couple of comments about planting natives and we really want to have a program on, alternative ground covers. And we've done that and I will do that again for you in the future. But remember that about 30% of the questions that come into help desk are about turf. And this is you all educating yourself about turf so we can help our clientels. And when we have personal ideas and, beliefs and values, I want you to have those. But remember, as a Master Gardener volunteer, we are helping the Florida residents deal with their horticulture problems. And a lot of their problems come from turf. So it's a really good idea to stay as well educated as possible. And I really want to thank AJ for keeping us up to date. I mean, there was a lot of new cultivars that came out today that he brought up that I hadn't heard about, some new diseases and new ways of dealing with things. So AJ, I really appreciate your time today. We're a little bit over. You all have his email, and I want to encourage you to reach out to him and think about ways that you can utilize the information that you learned today in your help desk, in your plant clinics, and providing that information back out to our Florida residents. And hopefully working in your own landscape as well. So AJ, I really appreciate it. And we will see you around. We got to get that Turfgrass field day back up for Master Gardeners. Let's talk about it, okay?
Sounds
Um,
good.
okay, all right.
All right.
Everybody, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.